project is going to be about the employer pilot program and the employer training. So the pilot program, we worked with 6 large and small employers, and we did receive some good positive feedback regarding their STARS experience. STARS was reported as intuitive, functional, and user-friendly. The functioning, because the functions were operating as intended, as we had tested, and the employers gave us great feedback for us to be able to enhance that employer training, which will begin in the new year. And we've got some useful suggestions for them for future features. As far as future state, some of the items that will be changing and updating will be paperless, no more forms. We've got within STARS, there is secure messaging, so no more emails. Messaging can include member details such as a social security number, because that conversation is occurring between you and us within STARS. So we can get information faster and be able to start that review of that member's record, especially since I know we keep going back and forth currently with requesting information so we can look up that individual member. The easier demographic file imports and manual updates. What's nice is it's easy to use some of the report exporting features. Oh,
Joanne, I think we might have had a little bit of technical difficulty for the last maybe 15, 20 seconds.
okay.
You broke out, so
Alrighty. So can you hear me now?
we can hear you.
Okay. So felt like a Verizon commercial there. Um, Again, I'll just go back to some of the future state. Paperless will not have any more forms. Secure messaging, so no more emails. That secure conversation can occur between our office and the employer or local board. So we can, the information can include details such as a member social security number, the easier demographic file imports and manual adding of members to the system. Easy to use reporting, exporting. So it's going to be nice to have that option to export a report that you can have handy in order to review. And current and historical member and retiree data will be preloaded for launch. Let's see here. So some of the other items that are nice about STARS and will it's going to enhance the capabilities for the employer self-service on routine tasks. Right now we're operating in a test environment for pre-launch, but we do expect faster import process for employers. One thing I know that I've always mentioned and that we do recommend is that the employers view the information that is on the STARS webpage for the file specifications and spreadsheets that are available there. Plus, we also recommend that if anyone has missed or would like to review the errors and warning session that we did, I believe, last month. But it is, don't forget those recordings are on that STARS webpage. And we do strongly recommend that employers engage in the training next year. which leads us into an employer training update. So the STARS training sessions will be virtual and will include sessions that cover administrator functions, demographic imports and manual updates, contribution imports and manual updates, payments, and much more that we will include in these sessions that we will have in February and March of 2026. And we will have post-launch resources also to help the employers and local boards after STARS becomes available. Remember, like we talked about last time, we will have multiple sessions of these trainings. It's the focus is going to be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, with Thursday meetings that are optional, but because it's a review meeting, but it is another opportunity to ask questions. The standard time for the training is going to be 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the schedule will be posted to the STARS webpage. Right now, February and March are tentative. That is subject to change. Recordings will be available for viewing of all the training, and materials will be available for your reference. So that will also be available on the website. Okay. So on to the STARS demonstration. So today we are demonstrating member demographics. So I will need to share my screen. Thank you. All right. So I've been logged out. My session was too long, so let me log back in again to the STARS Employer Self-Service area. And I am logging into this employer. And we did a session where we did provide information regarding each of the menu options here. I'm going to jump straight into imports today for importing the,
Joanne, sorry to interrupt again.
sorry,
I think we had another break from you, maybe
okay,
another 10 seconds.
okay. Alrighty, so we're starting at the home page of the employer that we're working on today. And again, we covered the menu options in a prior session. So I'm going to jump right into imports. When it comes to demographic updates, there are two ways to add an employee. And I'm going straight to importing, and it's importing a format for some of our employers previously, so that should be good to go for them. Hang on. I need, can't tell. And the other way is to manually enter a new employee, which I will show after the import is completed, the import steps. So I'm going to, let's see, hang on, add an import today. And the type, again, when you add an import, it does pop up with the wizard screen. So it is just following and choosing the type of import that you want to upload, and we're browsing for the file and the description. So my description today is just for my reference, and that description line you can reference how you need to in order to be able to note what file demographic import you are uploading. confirm the information, make sure it's the right file that you want, and then we can go ahead and move forward with that step. The nice thing is it does note that your file has been submitted and the validation has occurred. So once that file has been added and confirmed, it does automatically validate. It does provide for the option to validate here in the menu, but it automatically does that for you, so you do not have to choose that menu item. What we're going to do is we're going to note that it's validated with warnings, and there was one item that was added. When it says validated with warnings, you can still proceed with processing the file. With errors, there's some extra steps that would need to occur in order to be able to correct those errors before it's processed. What we can do here is we can take a look at the file itself. So the import details will reflect exactly how the file was updated, how the file was uploaded. So, you've got your first name, middle name, last name, again, the same columns and information or stop and start positions. That information is still the same and will reflect exactly as the file looked when you go ahead and review it here. We can view the error and warning, and it's letting us know that this is a new member. So again, it's just providing us that information with the type of detail, which is a warning. So everything looks fine. I'm going to go ahead and X out of that. We have the more information that we can view here from this screen, which is nice. We can view errors again just to see what it says. You can export the error list. So as we said, from the employer pilot launch, it does provide that option to export that list to an Excel file. Everything looks good here, so I am going to go ahead and process this information. And that is a step that does need to occur. And again, it will provide you with that comment there and confirmation that the file has been processed. So now what we can do is we can go back to imports. We can view that this particular item has been completed. New hire has been processed successfully, and we've got what rows were uploaded. Those are the same rows that were processed. Now, the next step that can occur if you choose is that you can go to roster, and that might be my Illinois accent coming through. I don't know for sure. It's been so many years, but some say roster. Anyway, as a new term that we need to get used to. And what I want to do is I want to confirm that new hire is here in my roster. So I'm going to type in the first name, apply, and review. So here we can see that we've got that new hire here. The election period is currently in place. Tier 3 right now. The indication is DB, but that individual does have that 90 days with which to make that choice. So we've got the hire date with the service date starting in August. So that's just a quick confirmation. You can go ahead and click on the member information here and view a bit more detail regarding what's happening with this current member. So what I am going to do now is I do have, let's see, while we're in the roster, I am going to show how to manually update a new employee. And there are a couple different ways that you can get to this add new employee. We can go to the roster and click on add new employee, or from the homepage, you can process a new hire. It takes you to the same place. For me, just because I've been doing this more frequently here, going and using this ESS, I like to go here to add the new employee. And it brings up this new hire wizard, which will walk you through the steps of adding a new employee. And as you can tell, it does ask for more information here. We can go ahead and take care of this. And our next step is the address. So what type of address? We're going for physical address. And the nice thing is, once you do put that zip code in, it will populate the remaining fields here for that step, which is nice. And then it will provide us with a verify confirmation of the address here. And we are moving on to contact. We can move forward from here. Whoops, am I missing? Oh, email. Oh, there we go. It jumped out at me. I forgot about that part, so it's a good thing. It'll let you know that something still needs to be done if that step is not completed. And right now we're looking at information regarding the hire date, which is did it then? Is that required? In this case, I'm going from the file that I had already had been created. I like to use the date that's there. So let's see here. Oops. Okay, now it'll give us a request confirmation so we can review the screen to ensure that the information that was added is correct. It'll automatically, from that hire date that was input, it will provide the service start date. And we can confirm. Go in here in the roster. I'm going to reset because I want to see. And then so I can just look at that one individual that was just uploaded and take a look at that. So we can see hire date, service start date, address, contact info. So while the import file is a couple of clicks, the rouster does have the ability to manually add an employee, which is that six-step process. It's up to the employer how you want to go ahead and manage that going forward in STARS, but at least there's those options for you. Now, what nice thing is if an existing member is handled in the same manner, you're going to add that individual either through the import process or the add employee on the roster. And it will provide you with information um, regarding if there's prior service there. And STARS does not depend upon the prior employer doing any updates. If you have that new hire that you need to get entered into the roster, you can go ahead and do that. We do have steps on our side that we will take in order to work with that prior employer to get that record updated, but you do not have to wait on that to process on that step in order to add that new hire if it's a lateral or somebody who has prior service with a public safety employer. All righty. Any questions we can help you with today?
Yep, Joanne, there are a couple questions tied to demographic, and then there's another question that I'll bring up in just a minute, not necessarily tied to what you are presenting. But the first question that has come through is, will there be an update to the printed membership form? And will I'm assuming member, will they still be required to include a copy of their SSN with the form?
Uh, Right now, our plan is that the membership form, we will not require that. So we will not require that SSN number confirmation any further. Now, if you would like to continue using that membership form and getting that information, that is entirely up to the employer. And you can still upload that information into our documents through STARS. That will be available to you to do that, but we will not require it. What will happen though is um, um, if there's information that needs to be updated on a particular member, the social security number is the only item that you will not be able to update. So you will need to work with our office in order to get that social security number revised in STARS. But other information, um, it does provide you with the ability to edit, such as the date of birth and marital status. And if the spelling of the name was not correct, then you can certainly go in and change that. But the social security number is the one item that we would work with you on getting information in order to confirm that social security number so that we can update that in STARS. And of course, that's what our secure messaging would be for within STARS, so we can help you with that step.
Yeah, and just and
Oh,
just
okay.
as a follow-up to that,
Mhm.
the reason why we still maintain our forms now is because, as you probably have seen while you do your demographic uploads or demographic reporting in our current portals, it's very limited in terms of the information that we're collecting right now. We're just getting the basic information on address, social, email, things of that sort that we need in order to establish at minimum the account. And then there's supplemental information on that form right now where beneficiaries, things, member-centric information. And so now, as part of this new process, employer, you may be doing the new hire function, bringing in the necessary minimum data that we need to establish the account, but then the member themselves will have capabilities and functions to update on their end as well in digital self-service for a member. So they'll be able to add their own beneficiaries. They'll be able to update their addresses. They'll be able to update, not socials, emails, things of that sort. So that is the reason why we're making a decision moving forward as we go into STARS, where we want to retire membership forms, where there's really not a need operationally from PSPRS to have that document on record, so that we will be, as Joanne said, we will be retiring the requirement of the form. But if you, as an employer, feel like you need to maintain some sort of documentation on your end, you certainly can continue that as part of your process, but it will not be a requirement on our end that forms are submitted to our office, because ultimately all the necessary demographic information can be collected by either the employer through this process or by the member themselves through self-service within their portals. Another question, Joanne, is as you were going through the manual reporting of a new hire as opposed to the import, they noticed that it was showing the plan enrollments. And so the question is, do we default enrollment in the DB plan even if they have 90 days to elect their plans? Would you
Right.
like me to
So,
take that? Would you like me to take that, Joanne?
sure. Yes, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's actually, you as an employer do not need to actually decide what plan to enroll them into. You did see that as part of the wizard process. It was a field that is showing, but it's a field that automatically defaults within stars based upon business rules. And in fact, it's not even an editable field for you to edit that. And so it's just a display for you to let you know that if it's a brand new member, they're going to be defaulted into the DB plan. And then, of course, they will go through their election process and that will be updated appropriately through their elections. Um, but it's just a way to kind of give you that resource and information of what that basic enrollment is going to look like. So there's all that we're going to be expecting as part of that wizard process is obviously the minimum demographic information, the hire date, because that's the driver of election processes and service start dates. If it's already an existing member, all their previous enrollment information will pop up and will show that they're already in this whatever plan they're in, whether it's DBDC, and what their rates are. So you will be able to, kind of see that visually through your enrollment process. But as Joanne also demonstrated earlier, that information can be seen, as you can see here, on the roster once you've completed the true election process, which I think is another one of those questions down here that we have. Is there a feature similar to the current employee lookup so we can see if our new hire is already a member or not? Joanne, you want to take that question?
I was hoping you would, because
Okay, sure.
that,
Yeah, I will take that as well.
thank you.
Uh, Unfortunately, in the structure of stars and the way the Vitex portal has been set up, there isn't a member lookup function because employers are only going to have access and information to their true accounts, so their own rosters, their own members, whether historically or not. And so there's no way to the system doesn't look at members globally throughout the entire plan. And so what you as an employer it would be a new change in process, and we will dive into this more when we go into trainings. But as you can see, when Joanne completed her imports, or she did the manual hire, the person then shows up on the roster, and that person will be set up based upon their actual profile in the plan. So if they are existing with another employer um, prior, once you hire them, you can go and pull up the member and it will tell you what's going on. So in this situation here that she's demonstrating here, this member is a brand new hire, so they're still in their election period. So you can see they're in their election period. And so that's the trigger for you as an employer to know, hey, we're not expecting contribution yet because already in their election period. But had it been a lateral transfer, it would be current employment status would be hired, would be service start. Everything would be showing as what's already been previously established. And so as an employer, I just hired this person, but they're already hired, they're already DB, they're tier three. So you know that we need to begin immediately putting them on the payroll from a contribution perspective because PSPRS is going to be expecting contributions. And so there's not going to be a lookup function ahead of your hire. You would actually go ahead and just proceed with hiring. And then once you hire, then you can pull up the member's profile and you'll know where they stand from a plan perspective. Um, so that's how we'll be doing managing that moving forward. Another question came up. Who is ultimately responsible for entering all the employees' information, HR of each agency? Joanne, you want to take that?
I- sure, that would be up to the employer because what is going to occur is an administrator will be providing that role to whomever needs to be the individuals uploading those import files for demographics or adding that individual manually. So the administrator would see the overall menu and have those options to provide the employer staff with access depending upon their roles on the, which is an employer decision.
Awesome. We do have another question, again, still tied to this demographic process.
Okay.
If we start out by manually adding new employees, but in the future want to import, is there an import template to download from the website?
Right now, there is the uh, on the STARS webpage, at the bottom of the page, there is the demographic specification document, which in that document, there are samples of the text file and the Excel file. So you can always look there, but you can always reach out to Harold or I because I've saved that those two options in order to provide that information to the employer. But you can always just look at the demographic specifications document too and note how each one of those columns in Excel needs to be noted because there are no headers in the files that are created, whether it be a text or an Excel. So you can follow along with the uh, file specification document, which is a great resource to viewing what columns, what information needs to be in what column on Excel and how those need to be noted, like the date. It has the two digits for the month, 2 digits for the date, and 4 digits for the year, and little details like that. You can get on that file specification document. But we can always send you the sample so you can take a look at it also if you need be. Or again, it's in that file specification document on the website.
And just as a follow-up for the demographic import file in general. I know Joann today is demonstrating from a hire perspective, like hiring a new hire using the demographic file, and she did the new hire manual process. But the demographic import file is really a way for an employer to update their members' demographics altogether, meaning that you can use that import process to hire new members. You can use that import process to update statuses of current members, like when members go on leave without pay, or they've terminated, or they're on military leave. You can update through that import process as well as demographic information on the member themselves, like updating address and things of that sort. So it's not purely an import file for hiring purposes only. So I do want to highlight that as that has been a key feature that we are rolling out with this process, because I know that that has been asked for many years on, can I just do a demographic import to update statuses, update hires, update address? And this will be that avenue to do so.
Thank you.
Another question tied to just in general from the enrollment process. Will it show if someone has health subsidy election with the DC? And the short answer to that would be yes. If that member truly, like taking from the example of you're hiring a transfer from another plan where they've already gone through their election process. Once you hire them, you will see their entire profile, including what their DC rate was that they elected, and if they were one of those members who elected the DC health subsidy, it would show that information as well. If it's a brand new hire where they're going through their election process, it won't show that yet because the member hasn't made the affirmative yes or no whether they took that election. But we will still be building out our normal reporting process that we do on the back end now, where I believe uh, the team sends out a report on a weekly basis, monthly basis, saying, hey, here's all of your new hires whose election period has ended. Here's what their elections are. That will still be a process that we will continue here at PSPRS moving forward to provide you those elections. And that will also be a report that will ultimately be available to you as an employer through this portal as well. So you could run that report just to see all those elections as well. So that should address that question.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah. I'm going to segue to one of the initial questions that came through, but it's not tied to the demonstration. It was just a general question on the project itself. Is there an update on the benefits file timeline for health insurance? I will go ahead and take that question as well, Joanne.
Thank you.
Um, as Joann and Harold have already presented and sent out all the spec document requirements for the health insurance file. I believe we've completed our initial testing with those employers who plan to do a health insurance file to validate a structure that it will import appropriately and things of that sort. From the perspective of employer self-service, we actually were just delivered in our last deployment in this month, the functionality by which an employer would be doing an import for health insurance files and updating enrollments manually through the employer self-service portals. And so we are currently going through our testing and validation of that process. Once we get to a point where we have stabilized that functions on our end, I wholeheartedly would think that we would be doing a similar type of demo here that Joann is doing to kind of demonstrate that. And then again, ultimately, that will be part of the training as well. So as it stands now, the functionality is there, it's available, but we are in our testing phase right now to validate that. So actually, we could potentially, at least at minimum, even next month as part. I know we already have a demo showing there. We could at least at minimum show you what that portal would look like. Because one thing I would say is the structure of uh, velocity stars, it's still an employer self-service function, but we actually have to set up different accounts. So you're not necessarily going to be going into the employer self-service for health insurance. It's what we call our health insurance or retirement system portals where that would be managed. So that's what you're seeing here right now in terms of all the different tabs on the left-hand side and things of that sort would be limited to strictly that tied to health insurance. So more information to come on that. And then there's a question here we might need Ureli to maybe clarify a little bit further, but I see how would we go about adding a member to receive those emails? I'm not, Ureli, if you have some clarity on that question. How we go about adding a HR rep to receive those emails?
So like
Go ahead, Joel.
right now we have to add an individual to our list in order for them to get those emails for the tier 3 confirmations once they've made their decisions and the 90 days is over. That's what I'm thinking this question is about. And so I know it would be here within stars that you would get that confirmation. Robert, I haven't seen how that's set up, but I know you were just mentioning that confirmation would still go to the employers to let them know what the members' choices were. It just would be within stars and not a separate email like it currently is with an Excel spreadsheet. Is that
Yeah, that's correct. We haven't fully developed out how the notification process would be looking once the election period is ended. We will though still be creating that report within STARS that we have similar. We just haven't built out exactly how that will be pushed out to the employers, or whether we feel that, like I mentioned before, it will be available on ESS in this portal right here. So it could be just accessible at any point in time, and it may just be a general email that goes out to all the contacts of a certain uh, type that we're showing in stars, because every contact for an employer is identified in a different area. It's whether it's HR, payroll, health insurance, cancer insurance, and we could just push out a general email saying that there's a new report available to you on ESS. Please, log in and access that. So we don't have that particular piece fully fleshed and configured out in stars as it is now. But if you're looking for right in our current state, in our current operations, until we go live, and you need someone to be added to the listing that goes out now, I would suggest that you reach out to either Harold or Joann, and they can coordinate directly with our teams internally to get on that distribution list that currently is utilized to send out any election notices. I'll just take one more glance here in the chat, Joann, because I think we've addressed all these questions. I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, wait, hold on one moment. Just another clarifying question. Just to confirm, the demographics upload can be used for new hires, terms, status changes like military, leave without pay, and changes to their demographics. Is that a correct statement, Joanne?
Yes, that is correct. The demographic input file can be used in that manner. Or there is option to go in and manually update an individual with that new employment status also, which like we're going to get more into detail into that when we do the training. But those two paths are available for the employee updates.
We did have another question that came through, not tied necessarily to demographics today's presentation, but the nationwide contributions will not be handled any differently than they are currently. Is that correct, Joanne?
That is correct. You will still go ahead and get those payments to Nationwide, and within stars. This is regarding payments to public safety retirement regarding contributions.
Yeah, and just to further that, from a contribution reporting perspective, you would still be the same process, meaning that you still report the DC detail to us because we want to have that information on that member's record, but there's still reporting requirements directly with Nationwide, and there's payment requirements directly with Nationwide that will maintain.
All righty. Any other questions we can help with today? And please remember, you can always email Harold or I, and we'll be glad to take a look at those questions and respond. So you do have hopefully have our contact information, which is on the last slide, but it's also, you can always reach out to us. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget, next month, it's the third Wednesday of each month. So the next meeting will be Wednesday, January 21st at 1 p.m. And the demonstration will be about health insurance, as much information as we can provide, like Robert was saying. And um, everyone have a great holiday and enjoy this season. And we will meet again in January. So thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great afternoon.